Hey there, hi there, ho there. Welcome to the fifth lecture of medical ethics. I hope you have your snacks. I have mine. Nom noms. They're very tasty. I don't know really what they are. They're chewy bites made with oats, almonds, and cocoa. Okay, those are good. Okay, today we're talking about Janssens and Widdershoven's An Ethical Inquiry into the Concept of Palliative Care. Hopefully you've read the chapter and you're consulting the handout as we go along. Now, basically what the article is, what this chapter is about, is three main points. It elaborates on the history of palliative care. Two, it claims that the contemporary definition of palliative care is ambiguous. And three, the authors suggest that palliative caregivers should recognize the difference between concepts of autonomy and dependency, and also modify the concept of autonomy as it applies in a palliative care setting. Okay, so that's the big broad strokes what we're doing here. Now, the first thing we need to know about it, let's take these apart one by one. Looking at the history, palliative care has not been around for that long. It basically, the first palliative care unit was at Mount Royal Hospital in Montreal, which is in Canada, my home country. Yay, Canada! And it was developed by a guy named Belfer Mount, who was born in 1939. Now, palliative care was conceived of at Victoria Hospital as essentially a treatment for cancer patients, an end of life stage treatment for cancer patients, basically to help them die with dignity. Now, it was a modification when Mount created it, the first palliative care unit. It was a modification of something that had been prior in medicine, which were hospices. Now, hospices, what is the difference between a hospice and palliative care? Hospices tended to focus on the spiritual and religious needs of the patients and their families, whereas palliative care tended to focus specifically on the medical treatments that might be provided to people to assist them in dying with dignity or dying reasonably comfortably. That is the essential difference. That's also your discussion question, so tell me something like that in your answer. Okay, now, what are the main conditions of palliative care? Well, there's a lovely list in your textbook provided by the WHO, the World Health Organization. It's on page 76 or 75 to 76. You should consult that list. Hey, my cat's here. That's cool. Do you want to say hi to my cat? Okay. This is my cat, Mulder. Isn't he cool? Okay. Anyway, go away, Mulder. Now, the main takeaways of this list on page 75 and 76 of your textbook is that palliative care should improve the quality of life of patients and their family members and should not engage in medical treatments designed in trying to cure the patient. Palliative care is designed specifically to assist the patient in their dying. It's not designed to cure cancer, it's designed to make cancer less painful, terminal cancer less painful to cancer patients. Now, moving to the second part of the lecture, or the second part of the article, what are the ambiguities in palliative care that the authors mentioned? Well, there are two, essentially. The door just closed. I don't know why. Maybe there's ghosts. Okay, the two differences or ambiguities of palliative care are one, there's been a medicalization of palliative care. It's primarily now in nursing homes and in seniors care centers, so it's extended from the hospital to other medical facilities. And this has caused the whole domain of what palliative care actually is to shift. It used to be aiding in the end of life, making that comfortable. Now it seems to be treating the patient for the last number of years of their life, as what might happen in a senior citizen's home. Palliative care was not supposed to be that long term. It was supposed to be something short term, a couple months, not a couple of years. And it has often been treated with hospices, it was a spiritual dimension. Now they tend to just treat pain with drugs. And this is what basically the authors refer to as the ambiguities of palliative care. And what they're recommending, what they want to see, is a bit of a tighter definition of what it should be. They don't really weigh in too much on what it should be, but they want some more clarity. If we're going to medicalize palliative care, then take it out of the nursing homes and don't make it like a 2-year process. And don't make it simply drug-based to alleviate pain. Maybe there should be more of a human dimension to it, more of a spiritual or religious dimension to it, which was there in hospice care, but seemed to get eliminated in palliative care. And the authors suggest maybe this should be brought back. So now, the final section of the paper, I think, or the chapter, is philosophically the most salient point, the most important point. And this brings up again the question of autonomy, or the concept of autonomy, which we've dealt with in previous lectures, the last 2 lectures, as a matter of fact. I believe I've mentioned it. Essentially, autonomy in the Kantian sense suggests, look, if you're a rational agent, you should have dignity. You should be treated with dignity. If you're a rational human being, you should be permitted dignity, and they interpret that as having the right to make some medical decisions or fully informed medical decisions about your own well-being. You should be included in that conversation. Decisions should not be made for you. That's what autonomy dictates, the Kantian notion of autonomy. If you're having any questions about that, please do consult the 2 previous lectures and their handouts. I lay it out a bit more over the course of them. Now, the question of autonomy, when we are dealing with people in palliative care, oftentimes we can't have that notion. That's a real problem because they're incognitive. Some people in palliative care are undergoing cognitive decline. Some people are also so wrapped with pain that they can't really make rational decisions anymore. If you have chronic pain, for example, for an illness that will terminate your life, are you in any position to make rational decisions about your life? Perhaps you are already far too biased. Your judgment is clouded by your pain. We can get our head around. Also, if in treatment to the pain, you're getting all sorts of drugs, like a cocktail of drugs, to eliminate the pain, are you in your right mind? Well, I can't speak from this with too much authority. One time I had a serious medical problem, and they pumped me full of morphine just to take the edge off, to take the pain off. It was in Canada, so it was free treatment. But when I was under the influence of morphine, I couldn't make sense of anything. Everything was just a Pink Floyd song to me. My wife cracked up about it. She thought it was hilarious. Thankfully, it was nothing. It resolved itself, and nobody was asked to make any serious medical decisions on my behalf. But the point remains, palliative care patients do not have autonomy in the sense that they are not rational. So what do the writers suggest? Well, I'll just read it, page 80 from your text. Autonomy in palliative care directly relates to a patient's ability to actively give shape to his or her life and uphold a sense of control in a situation of radical dependency on others. While liberalism sees a contraction between autonomy and dependency, hospice care sees autonomy and dependency as going hand in hand. Autonomy is fostered and supported through good care. So that's exactly the conclusion of the previous chapter. That's what the author was talking about in the previous chapter. And that is also what I was talking about in the previous lecture. There's this idea that in palliative care, what we need is some sort of modification of the definition of autonomy so that dependency factors into that definition somehow. The takeaway points of today's lecture. Janssens and Widdershoven discussed 3 key points. The concept of palliative care is relatively new, about 40 years old. 2, palliative care is evolving. And 3, the concept of autonomy should be modified in the sense that it should include a recognition that palliative patients are dependent on their caregivers. Janssens and Widdershoven suggest that palliative care will continue to evolve. They further suggest that this evolution should aspire to a recognition that patients in the final stages of life might require treatments that exceed those prescribed by medical science. And that's it. That's it for today's lecture. This week's lecture. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed your snacks. I hope you enjoyed meeting my cat, Mulder. I do have another cat. Her name is Scully. Scully and Mulder, like the X-Files. Anyway, that's all for this week, folks. Enjoy your readings. Enjoy life. Have a great time. And do the discussion question, please. Thank you very much.